I think more than anything else, it's important that your recommender knows you very well and is willing to write a recommendation letter for you. Willing to take that time because it takes time to write a letter. So if you're going to approach someone who knows you already, I think it will not be difficult to reach out.
Hi, everybody, welcome to the 16th episode of A Curious Character. I am your host, Rox De Leon. This episode is a conversation with Richard Dean Morales, an Erasmus Mundus scholar studying Masters of Science in Smart Cities and Communities. In this episode, Dean talks about his graduate school application process and provided his tips on how to succeed with your master's program application. Without further ado, let's get started with this episode. Welcome to A Curious Character. Today, we have here with us Dean Morales. Hi, Dean.
So thank you for inviting me on this podcast.
My pleasure. Let's get this conversation started. So, Dean, you're incoming Erasmus Mundus scholar for 2021, 2022, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's right.
okay. So, before we talk about the entire Erasmus Mundus application process, etc., the preparation and such, I wanted to go back a little bit and talk a bit about your background. Could you tell us a bit about what you studied in undergrad? What did you do after that? And what were you doing until before getting that scholarship award of studying to Europe?
All right. So for my background, I studied the Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering in Pilas Baños. So I graduated way back 2014. So that's around 7 years ago. And then eventually I worked in the industry for more than 3 years. I think around 3.5 years. So I've been working as a construction consultant, mainly as a quantity surveyor and a project manager. So I'm handling several building projects here in the Philippines. So I was a project manager in Ayala and I was a quantity surveyor in Arcades, Philippines. Okay, and then right after my stint in the industry, I transferred in the academia, okay, in 2017. So 2017 up until this year, I was working with UP Las Bañas, which is my alma mater as an instructor, where I'm involved also in research, particularly in the field of construction management and transportation engineering. So currently right now, so this is the year where I will be going to take my master's under the Erasmus Mundus scholarship. So with for the degree of Master of Science in Smart Cities and Communities.
Smart cities and communities. Interesting.
Right.
So, um, since you're coming from a faculty position, essentially we had the expectation that if you're in the faculty, your seniors would encourage you to pursue further studies. It could be masters or PhD. And I know you did not apply to Erasmus only. So applying to grad school, what are the other options that you were looking at, or like how did you plan? Let me rephrase that question. How did you plan your graduate school application process, like commercial
Uh,
schools, universities, countries, etc.?
First, I think of what I really want, what field I really want. For example, my expertise is mainly on construction management. So technically, I'm always looking for degrees that is related to it. Okay, so for example, actually I applied for three scholarships. Okay, I applied in evening scholarship. I applied for Erasmus Mundus scholarship, and I applied for the University of Tokyo University Recommendation scholarships. So all of my courses in there are highly related to building construction project. So that's the first priority. And of course, priority, I think it's the first. It's really the first one. It should be fully funded scholarship, right? Because I think I don't have the capacity to fund myself. And so that's the way how I planned it. Right? And then actually on those three scholarship, I was rejected in Chevening. I think I passed until the interview stage, but on the final selection I was rejected, and then eventually I succeeded on the two other scholarship, which is the University of Tokyo and in the Erasmus Mundus.
So for shifting, is it master's
Yes,
program?
masters as well. Okay,
And then
so
for you,
actually
for
my
Tokyo.
for Tokyo, it's all masters. Okay, so
Okay.
let me just enumerate the degrees in there. For example, in Evening Scholarship, my application there is Master of Science in Construction, Economics, and Management in UCL in London. And then for the University of Tokyo, the degree is Master in Engineering in Infrastructure Management. And then for the in the in currently in the Erasmus Mundus is the Smart Cities and Community. So as you can see, it's all highly related to construction management. Yeah.
Okay. Is there a reason why you chose to apply for a master's degree instead of going straight to PhD? Although I feel like if you go straight to PhD, that would mean you're going to study in the US. So was the
Um,
state studying in the States really out of the picture? You're like, no, I'm not gonna go there.
yeah, it's out of the picture definitely. I think for me it's important to take masters first because normally I don't know if I'm right, but what I know in PhD is that the coursework is very limited. Meanwhile, for master's degree, normally you have 3 semesters of coursework, and I believe that the coursework that I will be taking on those on my masters is very highly different from what I have studied in undergrad. Because, for example, my bachelor's degree is in civil engineering. However, my field expertise is construction management. But we only have 2 courses in construction management in our undergraduate degree. So that is why for me it's very important to take more coursework on that.
Ah, okay. Okay, that makes sense. So it's like construction management. It's like a subset or a branch of civil
Yeah, it's like a
engineering.
branch.
Okay.
Yes, definitely. However, it's more than a branch because construction management actually can be applied as well to other engineering degrees as well. Okay, for example, for EE, it's uh, yeah,
Floor
EE
plan.
and ME, yeah,
Oh,
and
yeah.
everything.
Okay. Okay. So talking about the Erasmus Mundus itself, what was
Okay.
your motivation for applying to that scholarship?
My motivation is just to apply for a master's. That's basically it. I don't know if I have more motivation more than that.
So it's really
So
like, okay, this is I'm aware of the Erasmus scholarship, and then you look into what programs are covered by that, and then if
yes,
there
that's
is a
right.
match, you just applied.
Yes, that's it.
So how do you start that application process? Do you apply to the Erasmus Mundus and then covered na yung mga universities, or meron pa bang different na okay university and then
Okay. Let me just tell the story how to apply in an Erasmus Mundus scholarship. So in an Erasmus Mundus, technically there are several programs. I think around more or less 100 programs out there in the Erasmus Mundus. So what you need to do is to first search in their course catalog. In their course catalog, there are filters in there. For example, you will be typing in filter your degree, for example, engineering, and then from there you will see all the programs highly related to engineering. And then for every application or for every school year, you are allowed to apply for a maximum of 3 programs in the Erasmus Mundus scholarship. So from there, I've seen a lot. I'm interested in 2 degrees in there. The one is this is smart cities and communities, and the other one is it's called for cities, or it's the master in urban studies. However, I only applied for the smart cities program. And then for every program, there is a specific program coordinators in there, and you will apply directly to the program coordinators. Normally, these program coordinators are part of the university, one of the universities within the Erasmus. So you apply for you apply to them.
okay. So what are the requirements for applying?
Okay. For the requirements, this is the I don't know there might be differences depending on the program. For example, I know for example, for arts program, they might require you for a portfolio of the product of your
Yeah.
the product or whatever
Your
do they
artwork.
have as an art people, right? However, the most common requirements for Erasmus Mundus scholarship, from what I know, okay, in my experience, for example, of course, number one would be the motivation letter. Number two, right, yeah, copy of your passport. Number three will be your CV. Okay. Number four would be the recommendation letters, minimum of two from your previous professors, and then of course your application form. You must fill out your application form and some of your certificates, and then the transcript of records and their diploma with the English translation, and that's basically it. And among the three scholarships that that I have applied, I believe Erasmus Mundus would be the has the easiest application.
Really? Why did you say so?
Because in my two applications, I've undergone an interview in both of those scholarships. So, however, in Erasmus, they will only judge your application only based on what you have submitted. So, it's very important that you have a very good motivation letter as well as high quality recommendation letter.
Interesting. So that could be, and I think that could be a double-edged sword, not having an interview, because say, I think for other people, the reason for them to check if you're a real person, or like they're doing the interviews to determine if this person is actually this person that he is talking about on paper. So like they could validate if, okay, is this really this person? Is your motivation letter consistent with what you say when I finally interviewed you? Okay, so apparently there is no interview for Erasmus.
Yes, there's no interview. Just submit all the requirements. And then just one day they will email you, you're accepted or maybe you're beyond rejected.
Really?
Yeah.
So what did you write for your motivation letter?
Okay, what did I write in my motivation letter? Normally, I only relate to my own experience. Okay, so this is how I created my motivation letter. So I told them that I grew up in the city of Manila. Okay, wherein according to the TomTom Traffic Index, so 2019, Manila has the second worst traffic in the world. And then I told them that because of this, the reason why we have this kind of traffic is because of rapid urbanization happening within Metro Manila, which affects so many families, including ours. So that's what I told them. That because of these problems, it's also like I've become a victim of it, including my family. And I told them that this is the reason why I took BS Civil Engineering so that I can to the contribute to the improvement of our cities and infrastructures. And then I told them because of that motivation, I graduated as a cum laude graduate, best university in the Philippines. So that's how I established myself in the field. So I told them that, for example, even in my board exam, I got a grade of 92. It's because of that motivation. And then right after that, I told them that I have a combined experience right now, both in the industry and research. And then right afterwards, what I told them in my motivation is the outputs. For example, what I've done, okay, what are the projects that I've done, especially what are my publications. And then right afterwards, I told them that I believe that this would be the perfect time for me to take my career into next level by applying to the Erasmus Mundus scholarship. And then I told them what I want to learn. For example, in smart cities, I want to know the technological developments in our cities. And I'm very specific on it. For example, I'm very specific. that I want to learn. For example, the building information modeling and digital twins application which is being applied in cities in first world countries. So that's how I interconnected everything. So from my experience growing up in the city of Manila, and then studying civil engineering, and then going to my career until into that plan of taking my master's. Why would I want to take it, and what I want to learn? And then I told them, I believe that Erasmus, this program, is the perfect program for my aspirations. And that's technically it. And then I told them that I will do my best to become active in the Erasmus Mundus community and provide whatever I can, okay, to the Erasmus Mundus organization.
I see. So essentially, your motivation letter is your motivation. Talk about your motivation, why you wanted to apply.
You're right.
Okay. So what would be, to summarize that, everything that, okay, you basically told us the outline of what you wrote for your motivation letter. If you're going to make it a bit more general to anyone applying to Erasmus, even for a different program, so what would you say would be the essentials that one person or one applicant might have in their motivation letter when they're applying?
I think make it as personal as possible, because you can only make your application unique if you make your motivation letters very personal to you. I believe only one person can create the perfect motivation letter for himself or for herself. It's it's all about creating your story and interconnecting everything to each other. So I think that's the general idea on how do you create. Because I'm seeing when you try to look for example, in the internet, when you try to look how to create motivation letter, you will be seeing lots of generic stuff and trivial stuff, which I believe, okay, you outline your experience, you outline your publications and everything. It's just like a resume that was transformed into a letter, and I don't think it's it will please the program coordinator, for example, or the one who will be reading the application. I think it's really very important to make your motivation letter very unique and very personal to you.
Yeah, especially if there's no interview. So essentially, that's the interview.
Yeah, that's
The
right.
interview that you would have.
Uh, Actually, it's even more complicated or more even challenging. For example, in the Chevening scholarship. In the Chevening scholarship, they have this, aside from your motivation letter, you have these 4 essays that they will judge first before you can go to the next stage, interview stage. So around at the essay stage, I think only 10% will go towards the next stage, which is the interview. And then eventually, among those 10%, only 2% will be accepted in the scholarship. So that's how
Wow.
difficult it is. But however, in Erasmus, that's why I'm telling that it's the easiest, because they only judge you there on your motivation, and then of course the quality of your recommendations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and speaking of the recommendation letters, how did you select who will be your letter writers, and what would be your tips to those people who are thinking about who to ask to write them letters of recommendation?
For me, I think it's very important. It's it's not really important. It's highly preferable that your recommender is also an alumni of that scholarship. For example, my recommender in Erasmus Mundus was an alumni of Erasmus Mundus itself. So he, I I talked to them, and he wrote on my recommendation letter that I believe, as a previous Erasmus Mundus scholar, Richard is would be the best. Has a high potential to become the best student in your program. So there's something like that in my recommendation. So even in my application in University of Tokyo, May recommender back in there is our chair of our department, which is also an alumni of the University of Tokyo. And I think that means a lot to my application. That's why I got accepted in there.
Interesting. That's a good tip that you've given for this one. But they
Right.
also the one for the Erasmus Mundus letter writer. Did he or she take the same program as you did, or what's your experience working with this person?
Um uh for the Erasmus Mundus scholarship, well, we are colleagues in the Department of Civil Engineering in UPLB. And then he was also my previous professor when I was an undergraduate student. And however, we have different programs, but still, he knows what Erasmus Mundus is for, why it was created, and he has the experience. For example, what to expect and what to do. So I believe he can write best recommendation, especially for that scholarship.
Okay. So what's the timeline like? When did you start your application? Then when did you receive your decision? When did you decide
Okay.
to apply first? When did you decide to apply? When did you just lodge your application?
Okay, actually, this is the timeline of my case. Okay, for me to be able to tell everything. My timeline of application is distributed into my 3 applications. So, like, in September to November 2020, I applied for the Achievement Scholarship, and then also submitted my application for the University of Tokyo scholarship. And then come by January, I already received the initial screening in the University of Tokyo. So I already know that I am initially pre-selected, and then I will to have an interview that same month, January. Okay, and then after that, I'm waiting until June for the University of Tokyo. Meanwhile, in February, I was accepted. I passed the initial screening in Achievement Scholarship, and then I had my interview real. Okay. Meanwhile, for the Erasmus Mundus Scholarship, I think this shortest this is the it has the shortest time span in terms of application. I applied only in February, and that I was accepted in May. So everything was like on May. Okay, I'm already accepted in Erasmus Mundus, and then I know that I am pre-selected in University of Tokyo. However, it's not really sure, but I only got the confirmation in June. And then in evening, I really don't know what to expect. But however, I'm not expecting anything from it because I'm already accepted to 2 programs. However, come by June again, okay, I know that I was rejected. Okay, that's it. But then by that time, I've already decided that I will be pushing through with the Erasmus Mundus. So that's the timeline. So it's quite distributed to all of those scholarships. It's like almost every month, I'm doing something that is
And it,
related to my master's application.
and it seems like a good problem to have, having 2 scholarships to choose from, the Erasmus Mundus and then the one at the University of Tokyo. So I think, was it back in May or June that you were having that dilemma of which
Yes,
scholarship to
it's
accept? So
I think it's way back in May.
yeah, May. So
Mm.
ultimately, how did you end up selecting one over the other?
It's more on the potential and the future opportunities. Okay. Actually, I've reached to a lot of people, including you, right? And I even posted uh, a discussion thread in Reddit, the subreddit of study abroad. So I've gathered several inputs from people, mainly from people who have already studied masters in other countries. And then from there, my final conclusion is that with Erasmus Mundus, there will be greater potential in terms of opportunities, future opportunities. more than the program in University of Tokyo. Yeah.
Why is that? What
Why?
opportunities does
What
Erasmus have?
opportunity? Okay. For University of Tokyo, I am required to go back in the Philippines for minimum of 2 years. However, I cannot work with ADB. ADB is the one who will fund supposedly my scholarship. Okay, so meaning after taking masters, I need to go back in the Philippines and work locally. Meanwhile, for the Erasmus Mundus, there are no restrictions like that. So meaning I am free to practice outside of Philippines, more preferably in Europe, of course. And then, however, what I want to learn, of course, is the technological advancements in construction management in urban cities. And then I realized, how can I apply those, or how can I become an expert on those advances if I'm going to work, for example, in a third world country like the Philippines that doesn't apply or utilize this technological advancements. So I realized that, okay, if that is the expertise that I want to take, I need I need also to have an experience on it. So, and I can only have that experience if I'm going to push with the Erasmus Mundus scholarship.
Mhm. Is there a reason why it took you 6 years after undergrad before you applied for a grad school program?
Um, when I was in the industry, I never thought of, or it's not really I never thought. I thought that my career was going so well. Um, at the age of 23, I was already a project manager in Ayala Corporation, which is the one of the um, biggest real estate developer here. And then I realized when I have received that, I want, the, I, I want something, I want more. I mean, it's so very, probably I was very young when I had that kind of experience being a manager in that field. I believe it was very challenging for me. I mean, the accountability was very high, and the responsibilities are very demanding. And I think for me, I thought by that time that I don't deserve that kind of workload. I thought being a project manager in a prestigious company was like a very good achievement, a very good position to be in. But when I was there, I everything changed. I have all the benefits. I all have the big salaries. But despite of all of that, I don't think it's worth it. So that's my thinking by that time. So that's why by that time I applied. I tried to go back first in the academia, and then everything was like, even though my salary, for example, becomes because when compared to my job in Ayala, of what I'm it's just half of what I am receiving from Ayala, excluding all the benefits. And however, I'm happy. I mean, because my workload becomes it's like only 25% as compared to my workload in Ayala. So by there, I realized that that's how I end up with academia. And then from in the academia, that's when I realized that I want also to study masters. So that's why it took me 6 years, 7 years probably right
Yeah,
now.
7 years. So
So
when
so
you
many
were
realizations.
so when during the time when you were not feeling so well, I don't want to say miserable or not happy with what you were doing at
Yeah, I'm not
Ayala
happy.
because of the workload and all that. And then you were exploring a career in the university. Did you ever try to look into other options, maybe switch jobs and not go to UP? So why UP among all the other options that
I
you had?
Okay,
Could
why
have go to
UP?
MDC or something, di ba? Another
Right,
real
right.
estate company.
Actually, I've applied to UP because of the flexible workload. With UP, I am free to also to start up some business. Actually, I entered in UP in October 2017, and then come by February, with my friends, we started a coffee shop. A coffee shop in Maginhawa. It's called Westeros. It's a Game of Thrones themed coffee shop in Maginhawa. It was even how do you call this? Featured in ABS-CBN Bandila, in in the show in some news, and even in, how do you call that? When in Manila, yeah,
When in
vlog.
Manila.
Yeah, when in Manila. So I mean, the reason why I entered UP is for me to explore doing some business, and I've done that, and I was so happy to do that. However, it is closed right now because of the pandemic. Okay, and there's a lot of flexible opportunities working within UP. I've even have done some freelance construction consultancy, and I'm handling my own time. So I think that's the perks of working with the UP.
Yeah. And what was I gonna say? It's interesting. I think your story itself is very interesting, coming from, a high paying job, then going to the university, and then later on realizing that you wanted to go to graduate school and pursue masters. Because some students, at least now students that I get to talk to, they would like to go to grad school right out of undergrad. That's not what I did. And in the US, it's common, very common for students to straight out of undergrad pursue masters and even go straight to PhD, and that's another 5 years of schooling, right? So I think this story just paints a picture of another alternative route wherein you would still end up going to, somewhere you didn't expect you'd be 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's right. And I believe with that journey that I had, I think there's really no timeline, and there's really no, what do you call this, one direction of your life. Sometimes it's three simultaneously you're doing, or sometimes it's you need to step back. You need to step back one step and then step forward. So it's like that.
Yeah.
You really can't know where will you go. Actually, even now, I'm excited on the potentials on of my career. So I really don't know if what will happen right now. I'm just contented of where I'm right now.
That's very good to hear. And going back to the Erasmus conversation, what are the perks of getting awarded the scholarship? What are the benefits that you have as a
Uh,
scholar?
the benefit the benefits of Erasmus Mundus scholarship is the total sum of well, the equivalent sum of the scholarship is 47,000 euro. So that's more or less around 2.8 million pesos. Um, 16,000 euro will go for your tuition fee for 2 years, and then 24,000 of that will be your monthly subsistence allowance. Okay, so 1,000 euro every month, and then you will have 3,000 euro travel allowance per year. So, and then 1,000 euro installation allowance. Okay, which will you receive only at the start of the program. So a total of 47,000. So as you can see, everything is funded, even your cost, even your living costs. So, and then I think it's more than enough for your program. So I believe you can even use that to go travel within Europe. So you will be having this residence card and visa that is allowed, that you will be allowed to enter several countries within Europe. I think it's a perks itself. Aside from that, you will be studying with a minimum of 3 universities. So in your master's diploma, there will be 3 universities, that 3 university logos in there. So it's like studying with different universities with different cultures, and I believe with that, it will expand your perspective, and you will be able to discover the world better.
And for your case, which universities or which countries are you going to?
Okay. For my first semester, I will be studying in Universidad del País Vasco in Spain. And then in my second semester, I will be studying in Université de Mons in France. And then for my third university, I will be studying in Heriot University in UK. And my fourth university is to be decided. That's when the time I will be doing my either internship or my thesis.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's like one country per semester, essentially. Do you have anything to do during the summer? Because one semester is approximately, is it like 4 months or 5 months?
From what I know from other Erasmus students, they are traveling every summer. They normally do. I go to several countries in Europe, and they're spending their travel allowance to explore the continent. However, I think we have this as summer school. I'm just not sure. But if I'm free, I plan to do either an internship, 2 month internship, or also travel the EU.
Yeah. I think an internship would be good. You can get more, experience also
Yeah, and you will be
and
paid
earn
as well.
and earn money for the internship. So
Okay.
right now, you're just waiting to leave for your first country. Where are you going first again? Spain, is it?
Spain. I will be going to Spain.
So you're just waiting to go to Spain. So if you are to maybe to wrap up that aspect of this conversation, if you are to give your 3 pieces of advice for aspiring student or aspiring scholars of the Erasmus Mundus, what would you give to them? What advice would you give them?
What advice I give to them? I think I haven't. Okay. First is create the best motivation letter that you can have, and then second, my second advice is be prepared. Ask for advice from many people, especially from previous scholars, so that it will help you a lot in your applications. And third advice is expect the worst, but hope for the best. Okay, so that's just and having the privilege to apply in this scholarship are achievements already. So if you get rejected, um, I think it's okay. It's all right. You're already you're applying for a scholarship. Um, you're very good already. So you have very high achievements already. But you know that you have the capability to apply in this prestigious scholarship. So
Yeah,
there.
I think that's a great way to end that aspect. But I have one last question.
Okay.
I think we did we talk about who to ask as your letter writer? So I think you mentioned earlier, good to have a previous scholar write you a letter. But what if you didn't have one? How can I ask this person? And then
Um,
what was your approach in asking them? Did you like draft them? No, did you guide work with them in, okay, what do you want me to write for my letter, etc.?
Normally, your recommender should know you personally already. I don't think it's appropriate to reach out to some random person just because you know that he has a position or he has a previous scholar, or you reach out to them and then ask for recommendation. I don't think that's appropriate. I think more than anything else, it's important that the recommender knows you very well and is willing to write a recommendation letter for you. Willing to take that time because it takes time to write a letter. So if you're going to approach someone who knows you already, I think it will not be difficult to reach out, and they will be very happy to write a letter for you.
For your case, since you had 3 sets of application, for each set you have to ask for a recommendation. What was your approach with that process?
Actually, probably in all of my applications, that would be probably the most difficult. I think that's the most challenging part, asking for recommendation, especially if you are applying for several scholarships. For example, one of my recommender, which is our chair, all of my 3 scholarships, he provided me a recommendation letter in all of those 3 scholarships. So my approach is I always normally how do you call it? I think the first approach, the first time that I approached her was quite easy. I just told her, our chair, that I will be applying for scholarship. I need a recommendation letter. I believe you're the best one who can recommend me for it. However, the second one and the third one is the difficult because you still have to say that I have to apply to another scholarship if you have the time. Would you write me another recommendation letter? And I'm fortunate that she's willing to provide me 2 more recommendations.
Question. So essentially, you didn't tell her all at once, like, I'm going to apply to these 3 scholarships. These are the timeline.
Yes, definitely. I think that's important as well, that you don't uh, you don't you don't ask for 3 letters for one time big time. Oh, probably that's a good idea too. Because normally, I think the recommendation letters, the content of it is more or less the same. That might be a good idea too. However, from what I did, I asked her in different time, depending on the application. Because there is this application, sometimes your application will require the recommender to write directly to them. For
Yeah.
example, the University of Tokyo, they have this own portal, which they will send the link to the recommenders, and they will be the one that will be writing in that portal. So you will not be receiving, and the recommendation letters will not be handed to you. So I think I think that's why I ask for the recommendation in different times.
Yeah, that's actually the default. So they would be the ones to submit it themselves. So the reason why I asked is because, okay, so you asked her the first time, then she agreed. You asked her another
Second.
time, she
Right.
agreed. Like, did you have a backup plan in case, I don't know, I don't think, maybe you thought in hindsight that, okay, this person would agree. I know her, she's a good person, so she would agree to write me a letter. But did it ever cross your mind that this person might be busy at this time, that she won't be able to write me a letter of recommendation, or worse, she would ask me to draft, not really worse, but like she would ask me to draft a letter for her that she would be submitting, you know?
Actually, I've already considered that, definitely. In all of my applications, I am considering 6 professors that I will ask with an order of priority, depending if they will agree or not. So definitely, I have a backup plan. I even had this scholarship in my application in University of Tokyo. I only need 2 recommendations. But because the second one didn't apply, I didn't respond to my request quickly. I need So I requested to the third person, and then it turns out that the second one provided. So I have that 3 recommendation letters, even though I only submitted 2 of it. So I
Oh, so
really had the backup
essentially,
time.
so for University of Tokyo, did you have to collect the letters and send them yourselves
In the
instead of
university.
them submitting it through the portal?
Oh yeah, it's not the University of Tokyo. It's the Chevening Scholarship. Yeah, you got that right. In Chevening
Okay.
Scholarship, you will be presenting the recommendation letters in the interview. So it's either you can, I mean, you will upload it prior to the interview, meaning you don't need the recommendation if you are not selected for the interview.
Oh, so
Yeah.
essentially, you can see the
Yes.
letter that they write. Okay, because normally, right, for grad school applications, you waive your right to access,
Yes.
review whatever recommendation letter they uploaded. Okay, so that's a different process apparently.
Yes. Yes. That's right.
And it's always the most difficult asking for letters of rec because it's purely not within your control. Unlike the motivation letter, you can make it as personal as you can. Whereas this one, it's dependent. I think it's dependent on the timing that you would ask these people, and if they would be able to write, as you said earlier, give you the time to write
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
strong letter.
And one more advice in regarding to asking for recommendations. It's very good that you have the draft of the recommendation letter. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean they will they will use that draft. I mean, you can just tell them that how do I don't know if it's ethical or not, but in some of the cases, for example, one of my professors, when I asked for a recommendation, he told me, okay, first create a draft of what do you want me to write for you. So that's why I did it. So I've written a recommendation letter as if I'm in the position of the recommender, recommending myself. So, and then from there, they will be the one to just edit it and adjust it based on their perspective on what they see on you. And I think it helps them as well because it saves a lot of time. They already have something to work on, and then just adjust it based on the to make that letter if they're the ones who are reading it.
Right, right. Yeah, I think that's a good summary, not really summary. That's a good advice, especially on writing a letter of recommend or requesting for letter of recs. Because personally, that's one of the things that I've been struggling with.
Yeah.
I do have some people in my list, but asking that person and asking them to submit to 5, 6, 7 universities would be kind of difficult. But then the good thing about US applications is most of them are due on the 1st of December. So they could just use one and then modify
Yeah.
depending on the program and the school that I am applying to. Well, thank you, Dean, for your time. And I really
Thank you,
hope
Rose.
I hope you all the best with going to Europe and all.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me on this podcast.
Yeah. That is it for this chat. If you like this episode or would like to suggest a future topic, let me know by sending me a quick message. I'm always looking for interesting conversations and hope to share more similar stories in the future. My Twitter handle is at rocksalt, that's ROXSALT. You may also send me an email at rocksalt.acc@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in and see you in the next one.